What timescales do you see in branch transformation delivery? And what are the two sort of key milestones along the way that you see?
I say, well, number one is defining your strategy. I think that is huge. I mean, exactly what you were talking about. You need to know your customer. You need to know your core values, what your bank is all about. Also, your branding has a lot to do with it. And once you understand that, I think it makes it such an easier process, and you really align it instead of just throwing things out there. Again, as Danny was saying earlier. The second thing is defining your roadmap after that, seeing the clear picture of where you want to go. And then it moves into the change management. I think that probably is the number one component that I think is so important, is the people, making sure they understand what you are thinking, what the strategic plan is, where you're going with it, the training, everything. A lot of times I think the employees are worried about what's going to happen, and they're not going to utilize the equipment unless they understand it. So I think change management is huge. And then the last thing is implementing, of course. And like you said, at that point, that's when you decide what machinery, software, hardware you're going to get.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. You know, is there anything, because obviously some of the points that you echoed from Danny's talk earlier on, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that you think needs to be reiterated on that, Danny, or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think strategy is one that needs to be rethinked. I saw some bullet points up there that I've heard in conversations when we've gone around the table as to why we should go towards branch transformation or what type. So I think we need to rethink a couple of those. I think the second critical thing that Danny brought up that we're trying to figure out is what exactly are we providing to our members?
What's your key differentiator?
Right. Is it a higher level of efficiency, service, and communication all wrapped up into one? I think we're still kind of in a 2-year of sort of a 5-year transformation. We're very piecemeal, so we're only doing it, a location at a time, trying different things out. So that's kind of where we are. Implementation is where we are, and that implementation takes us back to our strategy and saying, okay, maybe we need to redefine this a little bit.
So you're doing more like an agile approach. You do something.
Trying to do
what did you learn?
Yeah, we're trying to do as much data. And analytical information as we can gather. And even being here, we've gotten a few more points that we probably need to drill down on as far as when that member comes in the first 90 days, are we accomplishing what we set out to? And I think that's where implementation can go back and redefine your strategy.
You need to kind of have a closed loop on that.
Well, and like everybody, we saw the shiny ball. And you gravitate towards it, and you assume that this is going to fix all the different situations of transaction ease and efficiency in the branch. And like Danny says, it doesn't really go that way.
Yeah, that silver ball and the way you're saying about it, I'd say that there's also an expression in software terms, which is this: there's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that will fix it.
But you salesmen sure put it that way. So
yeah, sure.
You're looking to get back in there, I think.
Well, yeah, because I agree, it's not one size fits all. I mean, it's not, and you're exactly right, and it's unfortunate sometimes vendors come in and say, you need this, this, and this for all your branches. Maybe that isn't the case. Maybe it is for this many or this one, or your bank needs it, my bank does not. I mean, it's not one size fits all. I think it goes back to the customer. What is the customer? What's the experience? What do you want to gain out of it? What is your strategic initiatives?
Yeah, when I was with Washington Mutual, when we were going to our de novo strategy, back then we were trying to define what the branch of the future looked like. And again, we get lost in this omni-channel presence of arrows pointing and lights flashing and queuing and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you need a responsible conversation with a member that adds value to the process instead of just showing them how high tech you are.
Yeah, it's we're a company that's 6 years old, right? And you hear all this hype about startup companies and fintech companies, and it's drilled into you, you know, when you talk to all of these advisors and say, well, what's your key differentiator? What are you trying to achieve? And you try to almost get it down to 3 succinct bullet points. And if you can't even do that for your organization, then everything else is going in different directions. I don't know if it's possible to deliver on that.
That's
Maurizio,
hard to keep up with technology as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I'm gonna, I'm going to answer this, I have to answer from 2 points. First of all, we are solution providers to banks. So pretty much what we do is we help solve whatever the roadmap they have in terms of transforming branches. We don't really get too much into that. Okay, that's the first thing. And the other one is that I'm going to talk about how it is in Ecuador. And I'm listening to what Danny said, what you're saying right now. In Ecuador, things are a little bit different. You know, it's a cultural thing, and you can tell me. I mean, I heard that you've been looking in Latin America also. Things are really different. For instance, there's one thing that I didn't hear you mentioning, Danny. Maybe you can help us here. Is how here in the States, or what you have seen, how you manage what has to do with enterprises that are customers to the banks. How do you do that? I mean, that has nothing to do with the branch probably, or how do you do that? Because we do have that big problem over there that enterprises receive many checks. Checks is really a big issue in South America, and it's a big issue in Ecuador. It's not going to go away, okay? So there are companies that receive checks every single day, okay? And they have to prepare these packages, and they send a messenger the next day to make deposits. And I mean, you gotta see how a branch is in Ecuador. I mean,
they're creating their own queues, as it were.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, the first 2 hours during the days is just crazy. Okay, so we came up with a solution where enterprises can do deposits from their office. They do their RDC, the remote deposit capture, with a full solution that allows not only to do the actual deposits of checks, but also with the own checks of the same bank, you can do the 0-day transaction, and they have the money right away, because we have a solution that helps verify automatically the signature without having somebody to look at the check. Okay, yeah. So those are the kind of things that we do. So in terms of the question, really, here is, for us in Ecuador, there were 2 milestones very important. First, okay, to have the appropriate hardware for these kind of things, and then to have a solution that is going to really fit what they need over there. Is a little bit different.
So it sounds like you've created this solution for businesses, which has had a huge knock-on impact on the branches, because you're taking out the traffic that is never going to be a cross-sale, never going to be an opportunity to do anything else. These people are employees of an institution, and they're creating long queues. And that, I think Danny touched on earlier on, is that queue is part of the problem, but you change that, and then the experience changes completely within the branch for the retail customers.
For the ones that